She wasn't asleep. The CEO only closed her eyes to see what he'd do when he thought she couldn't see. Across the room, the black single dad she'd hired moved toward her desk. Quiet, careful, every motion deliberate. When the drawer clicked open, her heart stopped. In that second, she had to decide: trust him or destroy him. Veronica Lawson sat in her penthouse office long after midnight, city lights flickering below like restless thoughts. On the couch near the window, she lay down, loosened her jacket, and let her breathing settle into the slow rhythm of someone asleep. She wasn't tired. She was watching. Across the room, behind the faint hum of her computer screens, Caleb Donovan worked late again. Quiet, precise, his dark skin and the glow of the monitors turning the space into a chiaroscuro painting. A widowed father of one, he'd earned her trust faster than anyone she'd hired. Maybe too fast. The anonymous email still burned in her mind. Your new CFO isn't who you think he is. So tonight, she tested him. Through her half-closed lashes, she saw him glance toward her desk. He hesitated, then moved. Soft steps on marble, careful not to wake her, or not to alert her. He opened a drawer. The faint click sliced the silence. Her pulse hammered. "What are you looking for, Caleb?" He didn't rummage. He reached for something specific. Under the glow of the desk lamp, a small metal tag caught the light. He turned it in his hand, thumb brushing the edge as if tracing a memory, not a theft. Dog tags. She recognized the engraving. USMC, Donovan, Caleb. Her breath nearly slipped. This wasn't corporate espionage. This was something deeper. Caleb placed the tag back gently, closed the drawer, and exhaled, an exhausted, almost broken sound. Then he sat in the chair opposite her and looked at the city. "God, Veronica," he whispered to the glass. "You don't even know what they built on your father's name." Her body went rigid. They? He pulled a folded document from his briefcase, scanned it under his phone's light, and took a photo. Not to steal. To prove something. His face wasn't greedy. It was haunted. Minutes stretched. She stayed still, fighting the urge to speak, to ask. But this was her trap. If she broke it too soon, she'd learn nothing. He rubbed his temples, whispered again, "I didn't come here to hurt you." The words landed like stones. When he finally left, shutting the door with the gentleness of guilt, Veronica sat up. The city beyond the glass looked different now. Harder, colder, closer. She went to the drawer. The dog tag was exactly where he'd left it, warm from his touch. Beneath it, her father's ledger waited. Contracts, shell accounts, the skeleton of the empire she'd inherited. And a new entry at the bottom, dated last week, signed by someone named R. Cho. Her eyes narrowed. Caleb hadn't written that name. He'd been chasing it. The phone buzzed once on the desk, a message from a blocked number. "You're running out of time, Ms. Lawson. Check who's really cleaning your books." She looked toward the empty doorway where Caleb had stood. The test had worked, but it wasn't Caleb who'd failed. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the blinds, slicing the room into bright and dark halves, just like her life. Veronica Lawson sat at her father's old desk, the ledger open before her. Columns of coded payments and offshore transfers filled the pages. Every number was a confession written in ink. Her father's portrait hung above the fireplace, all smiles and medals, the illusion of honor. Lawson Defense, Protecting Freedom. Since 1973. That was the tagline on every brochure, but the files on her screen told a different story. Contracts funneled to warlords, bribes masked as consulting fees. She had inherited not a company, but a wound. She closed the ledger and stared out at the skyline. The city glittered, unaware that its peace was built on her family's lies. Her phone buzzed. A message from Agent Ruiz, the FBI contact who'd first warned her of an internal leak. We're closing in on Cho. But if the leaks continue, you'll take the fall, Ms. Lawson." She typed back, "I know, I'm handling it." Handling it meant finding out who Cho was and why Caleb had that name in her father's ledger. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Ma'am?" Caleb stood at the doorway, freshly pressed shirt, eyes shadowed from a sleepless night. "You wanted to see me." She gestured to the chair. "Sit." He obeyed, calm as ever. Veronica watched him closely. "You worked for my father once." He hesitated. "Consulting, years ago. Logistics for overseas aid." "Is that what they called it?" she asked, sliding the ledger toward him. He looked down, reading the neat handwriting. When his gaze lifted, there was no guilt, just sorrow. "I was a Marine before I was a numbers man. I thought loss and defense was clean. Then we lost people. Good people." He paused. "Including my wife." Veronica's throat tightened. "I didn't know." "No reason you would," he said quietly. "But you should know this. Your father kept names of the dead like receipts. I stayed because someone needed to finish the accounting. And now?" He met her eyes. "Now I'm finishing it for my daughter's sake, and yours, if you let me." Veronica studied him for a long moment. Every instinct screamed caution, yet his honesty disarmed her more than deceit ever could. "You were in my office last night," she said finally. He nodded. "Yes, I saw the ledger. I wasn't stealing. I was taking proof. There's someone inside still selling these files. Joe. You've got less time than you think." "How do I know you're not part of it?" "Because I'm still here," he said simply. The silence stretched until the city noise outside filled it. Veronica closed the ledger. "Find Cho. Quietly. I'll deal with Ruiz." Caleb rose, jaw set. "We'll both deal with Ruiz." She didn't stop him as he left. The door clicked shut, leaving her with the portrait of her father smiling down. False, eternal. Veronica turned the frame face down. For the first time, the office felt like hers. The elevator ride down from the penthouse was silent except for the hum of the cables. Caleb kept his eyes on the shifting numbers above the door. Veronica stood beside him, arms crossed, face unreadable. Between them lay a new understanding. Fragile, dangerous, and necessary. When the doors opened, the lobby buzzed with tension. Reporters lingered outside the glass walls, flashes going off against the rain. Inside, employees avoided eye contact. Everyone had heard rumors about investigations and about the CEO's mysterious late-night meetings. Veronica didn't flinch. "Get to the lower office," she murmured to Caleb. "Use the private system. I'll stall Ruiz." Caleb nodded once and disappeared down the side corridor. Agent Ruiz arrived minutes later. Tall, sharp suit, sharper eyes. He walked in like he owned the building. "Ms. Lawson," he said, voice cool, "we need to talk." "About what?" He slid a tablet across her desk. On the screen, a photo of Caleb leaving her office the night before. "Your CFO's been playing both sides. He's not who you think he is." Veronica kept her tone steady. "And who do you think he is?" "Undercover," Ruiz said. "FBI Financial Crimes Division. We planted him 18 months ago." She leaned back. "So, he works for you?" "Worked," Ruiz corrected. "He's gone dark. We lost contact last week. Probably turned." Her heart sank, not from shock but from how neatly the lie fit the truth. Ruiz leaned closer. "If you're hiding him, tell me now, because when this falls apart, you'll be the one holding the ledger." Veronica smiled thinly. "Agent Ruiz, if I were hiding anyone, you wouldn't have found my office." Ruiz studied her for a beat, then gave a tight nod. "We'll be in touch." When he left, she exhaled slowly. Downstairs in the sub-level server room, Caleb accessed the encrypted drives. The fluorescent lights flickered above, hum of cooling fans filling the air. He pulled out a flash drive and started copying files. Halfway through, a second monitor lit up with a message from an unknown user. "Stop digging, Donovan. You're not the only one undercover." His jaw tightened. The message vanished before he could trace it. Upstairs, Veronica's phone buzzed. One message from an unknown number. "You shouldn't trust him." Her stomach twisted. She typed back, "Who are you?" No response. By evening, both of them were chasing ghosts. Caleb spread out documents across his apartment floor. Photos of weapons shipments, offshore accounts, and a name that kept reappearing. R. Cho. Veronica, alone in her penthouse, replayed her father's last voicemail. "If you ever find out what we did, don't try to fix it. Just burn it down." She shut off the recording and whispered to the empty room, "No, I'll fix it." At 2 a.m., Caleb called. "I found something. Cho isn't a name. It's a code, a shipping tag. Your company's sending components through a front in Macau." Veronica's voice hardened. "Then we end it." "Together," he said. A pause. Then she answered, "Together." Neither of them knew that somewhere, someone else had already intercepted their call. By dawn, the storm that had hovered over the city broke apart, leaving the air heavy and metallic. Veronica Lawson and Caleb Donovan stood in the war room of Lawson Defense, surrounded by screens filled with names, dates, and ghost accounts that shouldn't exist. Every link traced back to the same identifier, R. Cho. Caleb pointed to a set of shipping manifests. "These aren't contracts. They're delivery routes for micro-components, enough to build portable weapons." Veronica's stomach turned. "They're using my company as a front." He nodded. "And Cho's not a person. It's a program, an automated route your father commissioned. Someone hijacked it." "Who?" Before he could answer, the doors burst open. 2 FBI agents stormed in, led by Bryn Cho, head of compliance. Her neat hair and calm face hid the tremor in her voice. "Step away from the systems," Bryn ordered. "You're both under investigation for data theft." Veronica froze. "You're Cho." Bryn smiled thinly. "Regional Chief of Operations, R. Cho. You never did your homework." Caleb moved instinctively in front of Veronica. "She's the leak." Bryn's eyes flicked to the flash drive in his hand. "You have something that belongs to me." "It belongs to the families your deals destroyed," Caleb said, voice low. Bryn's calm broke. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." She gestured to her agents. "Take them." Caleb pushed Veronica toward the side exit. Alarms blared as security doors sealed. They ran through the maintenance corridor, shoes echoing against steel. "Basement," Veronica gasped. "There's a private lift." They reached it just as bullets cracked overhead. Caleb slammed the control, the lift dropped, lights flickering. Veronica clutched the railing, heart pounding. When the doors opened, they weren't alone. A voice came from the shadows, Garrett Finch, her father's former board member. He held a pistol casually like a prop. "I told Bryn to keep you quiet," he said. "You should have listened." Veronica stepped forward. "You built this with my father. You sold weapons to both sides." He smiled. "And your father died rich. You could have, too." Caleb's eyes flicked to the exit behind Finch, calculating distance and timing. "Where are our daughters?" Finch's grin widened. "Safe, for now. Let's keep it that way." The implication was enough to freeze both of them. Veronica steadied her voice. "You touch them, and the world sees what's on that drive." Finch's finger tightened on the trigger, but before he could fire, Bryn's voice came through the intercom above. "Leave them, Garrett. We have what we need." The screens on the wall flickered to life, showing live feeds of 2 frightened girls inside a van. Veronica's knees buckled. "Paige. Hazel." Caleb caught her before she fell. "We'll get them back," he said. Finch backed toward the door, smirking. "If you want them alive, bring me the drive, tonight." He vanished into the darkness. The screen cut to black. Veronica turned to Caleb, voice shaking but eyes hard. "Then tonight, we end this." He nodded. "Together." The word carried more weight now, no longer an alliance of convenience, but survival. Night fell heavy and sharp. A single black van cut through the outskirts of the city, its taillights blinking like warnings. Inside, Paige and Hazel sat huddled together, hands bound, tears tracing streaks through the dust on their cheeks. A phone on the front seat rang once. Garrett Finch's voice came through the static. "Clock's ticking, Lawson." Across town, Veronica and Caleb prepared for war. They stood in the dim light of Caleb's garage, a place that smelled of oil and old rain. On the table lay a blueprint of Finch's private warehouse, marked with security grids and camera points. "He won't expect both of us," Caleb said, checking his gear. Veronica slipped a compact pistol into her jacket. "He'll expect me to run, not to fight." Caleb paused, meeting her eyes. "You sure you're ready?" Her voice didn't waver. "He took our daughters. That makes me ready." They moved fast. No backup, no FBI, no calls. Only two parents and a plan built on desperation. When they reached the warehouse, the place looked like a sleeping beast. Floodlights off, guards pacing shadows. Caleb killed the headlights and parked 2 blocks away. "Stay close," he whispered. They slipped through the side gate, the rain masking their steps. Inside, the hum of generators echoed off the metal walls. Veronica's heart pounded in rhythm with it. In a far corner, muffled voices. "Help!" Paige's voice. Veronica's world narrowed to that sound. She darted forward before Caleb could stop her. A guard turned. Caleb dropped him silently, arm around his throat until the body went limp. "Left corridor," Caleb murmured. "That's where he's keeping them." They crept down the hall, light slicing through gaps in the walls. Veronica's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Hand over the drive or lose them both." She texted back with trembling fingers. "You'll have to take it." At the next turn, Finch waited. "Always dramatic," he said, stepping out of the shadows. The barrel of his gun gleamed. "You could have walked away. Rich." Veronica kept her voice steady. "Rich doesn't buy peace." He sneered. "You don't deserve peace." A small figure moved behind him, Bryn Cho holding the page by the arm. Hazel cried in the corner, duct tape still across her mouth. "Let them go," Caleb said. Finch smirked. "Give me the drive first." Caleb's voice was quiet, lethal. "You should have never touched them." Bryn's hand trembled, grip loosening for a fraction of a second. That was all Caleb needed. He lunged, kicking the gun out of Finch's hand and driving his shoulder into his ribs. The shot fired wild, sparks flying as it hit a steel beam. Veronica grabbed Hazel, tearing the tape free. "Run, baby!" Caleb overpowered Finch, pinning him down. "You call that business?" he hissed. "Call it survival," Finch spat. "Then survive this," Caleb said, slamming the flash drive into the security console. Files spilled across every screen, evidence of every dirty deal, every name, every crime. Sirens wailed outside, Ruiz's agents swarming the building. Finch's face drained of color. You called them?" Veronica stepped forward, eyes cold. "No, you did when you hit send." As agents stormed in, Caleb scooped Hazel into his arms. Veronica knelt beside Paige, tears streaming, relief shattering the tension. Outside, under the flashing blue lights, Caleb whispered, "It's over." Veronica looked at him, exhausted, trembling, alive. "No," she said, "it's finally beginning." Morning came slow, like the world itself was exhaling. The warehouse was now nothing more than a crime scene. Sirens gone, agents dispersing, the rain finally washing the blood and soot into the gutters. Veronica stood beside the ambulance where Paige and Hazel sat wrapped in blankets, faces pale but safe. Caleb Donovan leaned against the hood of a cruiser, the soft glow of dawn warming his skin. For the first time in years, he looked like a man who wasn't running. "FBI cleared you," Veronica said, stepping closer. "Ruiz told me you were the only reason the evidence got out before Finch could torch it." Caleb nodded. "They'll keep him locked away. Bryn, too." He looked at her, searching her eyes. "You could have saved yourself, you know. You didn't have to burn the company." She smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I couldn't keep building on his sins." He handed her a USB drive. "What's left of the files. You can use them to rebuild clean, or walk away." Veronica looked down at the drive. It felt heavier than metal, like a future waiting for her decision. She turned toward the children, their laughter faint as they traded stories with the paramedic. "They deserve better than what we inherited." 2 months later, the Lawson Foundation for Reconstruction and Victims of Conflict opened its doors. The old corporate tower had been stripped of the Lawson Defense insignia. Its lobby now displayed a bronze plaque etched with new words: "Truth has no price. Respect has no color." Caleb stood beside her at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, dressed simply, hands in his pockets. Reporters called him the whistleblower father, though he never liked titles. One journalist asked, "Miss Lawson, how did you find the courage to expose your own family?" Veronica looked at Caleb, then at the girls standing near the steps. "I didn't find courage," she said. "I found someone who reminded me what honesty sounds like." The crowd murmured, cameras flashed, but for her, the moment was quiet, a kind of peace she hadn't known existed. Later that evening, the city glowed soft and gold. On the rooftop of the foundation, Caleb joined her again, 2 mugs of coffee steaming in the cool wind. "Ruiz says they're still uncovering hidden accounts," he said. "They'll dig for years," she replied, "but at least it's daylight work now." He smiled. "And you? Going back to CEO life?" Veronica shook her head. "No, I'm done with titles. You can't rebuild the world if you're still trying to own it." A pause lingered, comfortable this time. Below them, the sound of children's laughter drifted up from the courtyard where Paige and Hazel played with sparklers. Caleb watched them and said quietly, "They think we saved them." Veronica looked at him, eyes soft. "Maybe they saved us." He chuckled. "Guess we both needed a second chance." As the last spark faded into the night, Veronica turned toward him, her voice almost a whisper. "This time," she said, "I can finally close my eyes. Not to test anyone, just to rest." And beside her, the man who had once been a stranger, now something more, smiled beneath the new light of a city learning what redemption looked like.